Welcome everyone to the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit. I am Marcy Little, the host of this summit, and I'm also right now a speaker. And here to interview me is my great friend and colleague, Laura Beck. Laura, welcome.
So glad to be here.
So great to have you. All right, so Laura Beck is a somatic healing practitioner who wants women to embrace being enough. She has the honor of working with clients recovering from perfectionism, trauma, and narcissistic relationships. So as you can see, she's a perfect candidate to be running this interview because it's all in line here. It's all part of the thing. Okay. Before I hand this off officially to Laura, let's do what we do in every single interview, which is take a moment just to get present and centered in the body, if that works for you. Do what works for you. So there's an invitation here to lower your eyelids or close your eyes or not. And I'm going to close mine because that feels good to me right now. Oh, another thing that feels good to me that I offer to you is just making an audible sound as you exhale. It's so good at relieving tension from the body. And you can do that a few times. No one can hear you. You can be as loud as you want, or as quiet as you want, or make no sound at all. And then bring awareness into your feet and just notice, can you feel your feet? What's going on with the feet? And for me, that takes me right into noticing my breath. Just noticing the rise and fall of my own rib cage, which immediately takes me to noticing that there's some tension in my jaw. And so I just bring my awareness there in a loving regard. And I offer to my own body to release that tension if it's ready. And when you're ready, you can come back. If your eyes are closed, feel free to open them. And Laura and I are right here to welcome you. So welcome back. There may be times during this interview where you'll feel a little, you might feel a little overwhelmed or activated, or some feelings may come up that you're not sure you know how to deal with. Any of that takes place, please hit your pause button and go take care of yourself, whatever that means. It's like, get a little exercise in, shake some stuff out, make a cup of tea, go pet your dog, call somebody, whatever you need to. Come back if and when you're ready, and we'll still be here. All right? Okay, take care of yourself. All right, I'm going to take off my hostess hat and give it over to Laura, who's going to start her interview of me now.
All right, so happy to receive that hat for you. It's such an honor and a delight after 20 years of having you in my life to be here with you at this moment. I'm so excited. And so I'm looking forward to the conversation. I do need to start out, however, offering a little information about you to everyone. So here we go. Marcy is the author of Naked, My Body's Story. And Marcy tells this redemptive story of healing, personal, generational, and collective sexual trauma at a cellular level in the body. Now, Marcy also guides her clients to find and develop their own tools to refine wholeness. And as a beloved teacher of yoga, Marcy offers ongoing classes in person and online. So check it out. Marcy's also the creator and the host of Why We're Here Today, the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit. So this is a pinnacle moment. And if you want to learn more about Marcy when we're all done today, by all means, go to marcylittle.com. And so with that, Marcy, do you want to add anything to your bio?
I kind of do. I kind of want to share with everybody who's listening a little bit more about my own healing journey. And, my initiation into the world of being a sexual being happened very early. And because some of that happened because of sexual trauma, it was most likely too earlier than would normally occur for a person. And the results of that meant that when I did start to be sexually active, and because I did go through an experience that was traumatic in my teens, which I'm going to read about, I think, in a few minutes. I was out of my body, and that was happening, and that was happening again and again. But I had this friend, and she was a dancer, and she was in her body, and we would get together after she'd been with her boyfriend in the car, experimenting with sex, and she would talk about how amazing it was and all these orgasms she was having, and I had no clue how that could even be possible with another person. So at the ripe young age of 17, when I was transitioning out of high school, I have a late birthday, and going into college, I just made this pact with myself. I said, I want to know what she knows, and I want to know that for myself in my body. And of course, I had no clue how to get there at that time. But that was the start. And then in college, I very wisely signed up. My soul must have been just drawn towards this, a course um, called Health and Religion. And it was taught by a professor who had a retreat center. I learned to meditate in that course. And I replaced all of my compulsive habits with compulsive meditation. And I began to make that mind-body connection in a way that was novel. And because I was young and I had all this energy and my mind was really sharp, it was profound. And for months on end, I would wake up and meditate. I would do walking meditation up the hill to school. I would sit and meditate and eat in meditation. I would walk home in meditation. I would meditate before bed. I did this for a while, and it led me into what I would call a spiritual crisis. But it was a beautiful and needed spiritual crisis where everything I knew was falling away. And something was being born in me that would take a long time really to come back to and figure out. But at that time, I wanted to become a healer. That's what emerged for me in that spiritual crisis. So that was like my first real hit of, wow, I can see what is going on. And I wanted to head off to the Amazon. That was my first, the first place I was going to take myself. So I went to see my advisor in college, and I was a French teaching major, and she said, finish up, Marcy. Finish your degree and then go do whatever, but you're too far along. So what I did is I just continued to take these really cool and groovy courses in mysticism and the body and philosophy, which was really where my soul finally found its calling. And I finished up my degree. Fast forward, the birth of my son when I'm 29, and I've been teaching English in Paris and different parts of the world. And it became really clear that I had to kind of really land a job that had health insurance and where there was a regular paycheck. And I was a single mom. And the other part is that my son, unfortunately, was born with a debilitating progressive muscle wasting illness called Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So it was like I was catapulted into a kind of an adulthood then. And so I continued to meditate, but the healing part showed up more in my teaching in the classroom in my relationship to my students. And I always was just rooting and supporting their growth into their wholeness. But then several things took place. My son in May of 2016, decided he wanted to move out, which is something I never thought would happen. He had been living full-time in a wheelchair since he was 12, but we found a way. And at the very same time that happened, I was sickened for the second time by mold in my classroom. And I was basically kicked out of teaching. I didn't yet know that I would be kicked out of teaching for good. And very smartly, once again, the soul knows what it needs. I was drawn to an Anusara yoga teacher training, which I didn't think I could handle because I was so sick. And the teacher said, yes, you can. And it was that kicked off this whole new part of my life, which I think we'll come back to again later on, perhaps in the interview. So that's kind of what I wanted you to know. And so I really went more deeply into my yoga practice at that time. And I started to live more fully at the cellular level of my body.
I love that you filled in the gaps. Nice, round, rich picture of who you are. And so I think the next thing we'd want to do, right, is have you read a little bit from the book.
Okay. So I'm actually going to read the very start of chapter 1. And the title of chapter 1 is, "And So It Begins." "Do you remember how that babysitter touched us?" my sister casually asked. We're sitting outside on my mother's front porch one Halcyon day in early fall of 2016. On the hill across the river valley, leaves dress the trees and a mottled mix of rust and yellow and scarlet. She takes a long drag off her Allegheny Reservation cigarette. "No, I don't," I say, as my head, now searching for that lost memory, surveys the scene. "I guess you wouldn't. I was only 3, she replies, and takes another long, slow drag of her cigarette. I choke on my spit. For as long as I can remember, I have been aware of the sexual part of my human nature. It seems like that awareness was present from an early age, though I couldn't say exactly when. I just knew it was there. It was a part of me. My sister is 2 years older than me. If she was 3, then I was 1. Of course I couldn't accept. Of course I have no conscious memory of it, but my body does." Denny continues to smoke in the slow, lazy way she has, while my diaphragm spasms in a struggle to remove the offending spit from my lungs. My mind is cataloging every time my body has recoiled in fear when my partner touches me with desire. Bessel van der Kolk, in his seminal book, The Body Keeps the Score, cautions that long after a traumatic experience is over, it may be reactivated at the slightest hint of danger. The earth opens beneath me. I fall in. The rest of the day is a blur of overcooked hamburgers and family bickering. I sneak sideways glances at my mother, wondering, how could you let this happen to us?
Mm, thank you. Wow. So I want to know. I want you to share with us, where did this all begin? What's the story behind the book? How did it happen?
Yeah, and I want to answer that question. But I also just want to tune in for a second with the viewers, just in case what you heard there might have been triggering.
Mm.
And if that is the case, if it might feel good to just put your hands on your heart for a second and give yourself a little bit of attention. See if you can even feel your hands. See if you can feel the sensation of your hands touching your own chest. And again, if you need to take a break, please do and come back. And so we'll just take a moment to reground and come on back when you're ready. Okay, I do want to answer that question, Laura.
Thanks for catching me.
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. I guess the first thing is that I didn't plan to write this book. It's not like I sat down one day and like, I want to write about my sexual trauma. Not at all. In fact, I thought I had worked my sexual trauma through by the ripe old age of, I don't know how old I was by 2017. I was like, I am good. I enjoy sex. I can get there, the whole kind of thing. And then this yoga business, right? And this getting so sick from toxic mold business. And the combination was really synchronistic, I guess you could say. I took myself on a healing journey to Mexico. I wanted to rid myself of all the toxins in my body. I had multiple healing uh, sessions with Mayan shamanic healers while I was there that were quite different from anything I'd experienced. And with that intent of healing fully, getting the toxins out of my body, I came home. And I write about this moment when I came home and I greet my husband in the airport, and something happens. And it's a familiar thing that I know so well, and that many women or people with sexual trauma will know so well. It's when the touch comes, you're feeling open and alive, and the touch comes and it's like, something shuts down inside, right? So we come home, and the next night I am awoken by this download. Basically, I turn on the light. I'm a writer, so I have a pad of paper and a pen at the side of the bed, and I start writing furiously everything that's coming through. And then I turn off the light. I think I'm done. And then boop, I turn the light back on and I'm like writing, and then I turn it off. And this continues for days, and then weeks, and then months. And I'm in a moment where I'm not teaching, I'm in a healing process, And what comes through loud and clear is there is still trauma that needs to be released at the cellular level. And what allows me to realize that perhaps was the initiation that happened with the shamans, but also the deep practice of yoga. And in yoga, we're moving towards what we call an optimal blueprint.
Hmm.
And as we move towards our optimal blueprint and we get more and more conscious in the body, we're going to start to come up against whatever obstacles are there, to really living in our deepest beauty, our deepest bliss, our deepest joy, our deepest pleasure, all of those things. Boom, it's just going to be there. And the practice of becoming more and more conscious in the body allows then for something incredible to occur, an alchemical transformation to begin to occur. And that is what happened for me. And that's maybe why the book said, okay, we're ready. And so I wrote my healing journey. And I started in April of 2017. And on November something or other of 2017, the last word came through. And I was like, oh my God, I ran down to my husband. I'm like, Chris, I think I'm done. So now we're in 2021, and that just speaks of how long it takes to get a book out.
Well, that's funny. I've often felt like, wow, she did that really fast. So it's all relative, isn't it? So I love that story. Clearly, you channeled the book. It's your story coming right through you when it needed to come through, right? You know, as someone who has read the book, there are a couple of ways that you take, there are two threads that come up for me. And I want to address each one of them. And when I describe them as threads, what I'm getting at is that you you offer them to us in a gentle unfolding of a process that's integral to what you're trying to convey, right? And the first one that I wanted to ask you about is actually there's sort of a pivotal moment for it on page 27, and I'm wondering if you would read that last section for us, and then I'll let you know what I want to explore with you about it.
Let me get that. All right. This is the very last section of chapter 2. Soon after Chris and I start living together, I bring it up, gently at first. When you look at my breasts like that, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Why? I just love your breasts. Because it makes me feel like an object. This makes no sense to him. So I tell him the story of when I was 15, drunk and a virgin, and raped at a high school party by a 22-year-old man. I tell him about the babysitters, the young men who jerked off in front of my best friend and me when we were 10 years old, changing into our bathing suits at a hippie music festival in upstate New York. The man in a parked car who called us over and exposed his penis to us. The list gets very long. Chris cries when he hears these stories, but how can he know the way they have affected my ability to give and receive love, my ability to open and share my heart with ease? Even I don't fully understand it, but I know that I am still at least partially a prisoner of my past, a victim of what happened to me, my mother, my sister, and so many women in the world around me. My husband is a sensitive, loving man who truly has never wished to hurt me. Truly, but he does. We do, for years, unknowingly, unintentionally. And then I come home cracked open from Tulum, Mexico, and I say, enough.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah. So as I read that, it just, I'm like, okay, here's that pivotal moment. Here we are. And that is where we, as the reader, were able to join you as the process between the two of you unfolds now that you are facing your trauma in a new and different way and inviting the opportunity to heal. So what does that look like between you, right? And so I was so struck by the process that you capture in the book because I can't help but wonder, and because the book is so accessible, it's it's so available to people of so many different kinds of experiences. I can't help but wonder how women who are struggling to navigate their intimate relationships now that they're open to healing to their, from their trauma. What is it that you're hoping that survivors of sexual trauma are going to take away from witnessing this process between you and Chris?
Yeah.
What are you hoping they'll integrate and absorb from that?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I guess I would say, first of all, how common our story is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing. And that comes up again and again when women are reading my book, like how common our story is. And it's just not something we talk about, and it's not something that we see depicted in the media. Not very often. Very occasionally it will come up, but it's not the norm. Um, and sexual trauma that is stored in the body leaves an imprint, and it's a devastating imprint. It can be, right? It affects our relationships. It affects our ability to open our bodies and our hearts, as I've alluded to here. And it needs to be unwound, because opening to love and experiencing the full range of pleasure that I've talked about, particularly in our bodies, is our birthright. And as we do that, we step more and more fully into our true potential, into what we're here to do, really. Those imprints, when they're not resolved or dealt with, they're those obstacles I'm talking about as we're moving towards our optimal blueprint, right? So, seeing this in relationship, I am hoping that people who are still working it through will see the potential for beauty that lives in the process of healing with a partner or someone you're close to, and the spiritual nature of the journey. And how incredible it is for both partners to move more and more towards knowing each other in these intimate spaces of the body and the heart and the mind and the soul, letting each other in incrementally sometimes, and doing that dance. And doing this with a partner allows the growth process to speed up, and that creates hope. So my story is a mixture of the raw and the sublime. And I guess that's really what I want. I wanted a true story to be told that we don't see.
Yeah, and the rawness and the honesty is palpable and it's welcoming, honestly.
Mm.
I feel like you welcome the reader in, like, here, this is what it is.
Mhm.
Let's be here together and see how we can support each other in this process. So, oh, love it so much. So there's another thread that really sticks out to me as I read the book, and that is just the unfolding of your healing process, where it becomes incredibly clear to you that uh, healing is needed, and how you begin to bravely and obviously imperfectly, because that's the way it works, right? Move through that process so that you can find some redemption, some sense of wholeness again, which I realize is ongoing. But you certainly feel that process coming to life as you move through the book. And so, what this reminds me of is that adage, the only way out is through.
Mhm.
And you do a masterful job of showing us what's available to us if we are willing to embrace our fear.
Mhm.
Right. And so, without glossing over how hard it is or how much courage it requires, you walk us through.
Mhm.
And so, I can't help but wonder, how does this translate, this going through
Mhm.
process as you work with your clients?
Yeah, it's such a great question. The part I think you're referring to specifically in the book, I quote Pema Chodron, and she talks about how the peacock eats poison to get the colors in its tail.
Mm.
And she talks about turning base metal into gold. You don't get rid of the base metal, it comes along with you, and it's essential in the process. And there's nothing easy about it, for sure. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage, which is why many people who understand and have gone through this journey and help others to go through this journey, call it the hero's journey or the heroine's journey, right? And that brings up for me the importance of being accompanied. Because sexual trauma is a relational trauma that takes place in the body, we actually need to heal it in relationship to an other, right? We can't actually heal it in isolation. There's a lot we can do by ourselves, but we can't actually heal it all the way unless we are in relationship to somebody who we're intimate with. And that doesn't even have to be physically intimate, right? So this can be that guide that sees you, that witnesses you as you move and find your own tools. They have their tools, and some of their tools might be useful to you, but there may be tools that are totally unique to you, right? Sort of like I found mine, which is why, I say it that way in my bio, because it's so important that with each person that I work with, it's an organic process. There's so much mystery in the process, just like there is in my own process. I'm always awakening to the mystery of what the heck is going on here, there's so much more that I don't understand than what I do. And so working with someone who can actually reflect back to us our absolute value, our absolute worth, despite whatever has happened to us, whatever we've done, or whatever's been done to us. A loving presence, the container of a loving presence. That there's nothing more healing than the container of a loving presence. It sounds simple, and in a way it really is. The journey is not simple, it's complex. It's like Ariadne going down into the underworld, and she keeps that thread, and she's got to go through all these trials, and then she comes back out, and she's changed. That's what it's like. It's an initiation process into the depths of your body and your soul. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, so, and it helps to have some tools. Ariadne, when she's down there, she doesn't go alone. She's given help along the way. And we all need to be given some help along the way to get where we want to go.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Yes, it answers. It's a beautiful answer to the question. All right. Powerful. Yes. Because I did want to connect those dots. Okay. Here's the book. And how do we, what do we take from the book and the experience that you share? And how does it plug into how you work with your clients? So that's perfect. So, okay. Now we're going to kind of zoom back out again. This is a fairly general question, but why is this an important book for people that are healing from sexual trauma? So what's the big scope here?
Well, as far as I know, this book is unique. I don't know of other books that kind of get inside a person while they're healing and just tell their story as it goes. And so in that way, it's just very, very authentic and hopefully very, very relatable. My hope is that the reader will feel at home, that they'll feel seen, and that they'll feel known just by reading it. And also in reading it, that they'll know that they're not different. They are not alone in their experience, because that's what happens. That's the thing about not talking about it. We think that we're alone. That was the beauty of the Me Too movement when it exploded, which, by the way, happened after I started writing this book. So the timing was like, whoa, look what's happening. We're in the timing of it. So yeah, so I think that's it. It legitimizes women's experience. One reader came up to me after just reading the first 2 chapters, and this is a person I consider who's very, very well along in terms of her self-awareness and her capacity to live the life that she loves. And yet there was this lingering bit of trauma, sexual trauma, that she had minimized for herself and said, oh, that's not a big deal. And something had occurred, and all of a sudden it was like it came up, and she found her way to my book somehow, and it was immediately like, oh my gosh, I don't minimize this anymore. This is still alive in me, and I'm ready to I think I'm ready to deal with it, and it's just like another piece of a complex mosaic puzzle of who we are.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we know why it's important, how the heck do we buy it?
Okay. Well, the book is available on Amazon if you want to have a hard copy. And also it's available on e-Kindle on Amazon. So that's one way, Naked, My Body Story. If you're part of the summit and you're here for free, you will get the first chapter in your inbox for free.
Hmm.
If you have purchased the summit, I will send you a PDF of the book. It's not a hard copy, but you can start reading it. Then if you want to get a hard copy, you can go ahead and purchase that from Amazon.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to know is, okay, book, how do we arrive at the summit? What happened in between there?
Yeah. So I am on a listserv with a person who does summit trainings and a bunch of other stuff, excuse me. And this came into my inbox in, I don't know, February,
Hmm.
trained to put on a summit. And I was like, that might be a great way to promote my book. So the initial thrust was, that would be a great way to get my book out there into the world and into the right hands, right? A healing sexual trauma summit. So that was the first thing. And then it was so immediately clear when the speakers started saying, hell yes, how important this summit is to the women and men too, who are going to sign up, because they are going to have access to people who have found freedom in their bodies and might have modalities that they've never tried. They may hold a medicine that people had no idea even existed. So
Mm.
there's a diversity of practitioners and healers who will be speaking here, and some of whom you've probably already heard. I also wanted to make it affordable. Healing should be accessible to everyone, which is why it's free also.
Mm.
We don't all have time. So that's also sometimes makes things inaccessible. So I've kept the initial cost pretty low, $57. Anybody who can't afford the $57 and needs to have access to this, just contact me. We'll work it out, But really, that was really it. It was like, I want people to get the support they need.
Mm.
Short and simple.
Perfect.
Mm.
Yes, incredibly affordable. Um, so I know you're offering something, a free gift, a purchase offering. I'd like to hear a little bit about what people can expect with that.
Yeah. Okay. Soon after the summit, I'll be sending out, well, right now, right below this video, you will have access. If, like I said, if you're here for free, you'll get the first chapter in your inbox, and folks who purchase will have access to the whole book. And actually those links will be below here as well. Following the summit, it started to become really clear to me. I went away on a retreat and I thought, what do I want to offer after the end of the summit? And I immediately saw what needed to be offered, and that is a healing sexual trauma intensive. It's going to be 10 weeks long. It's going to be a small
Mm.
circle of women, exclusively women, or those who identify as women. I will take up to 13 people or less or fewer. And I'm in the process right now of making a workbook that will accompany the reading of Naked, My Body Story. It's not complete yet, although it may be by the time that you're hearing me say this. And folks who join will have access to that workbook. And we'll refer and use the workbook as we work through the book together. And the way that the intensive works and why it's intensive is that for 10 weeks, we will meet as a group in a circle once a week. And then each person in the healing intensive will meet with me for 30 minutes every week. So each week we'll be sort of focusing around a theme or some aspect of the healing process. And then working with me, we'll be able to really work in the body. And the name of the workbook is Your Body's Story, because that's what we really want to get into here, is your body's story.
Well, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. And I hope a lot of people will take you up on it, or at least as many as you want or can handle when you're doing that kind of one-on-one work. Wow, I mean, that's a special offering.
Yeah.
So Marcy, here we are. I mean, we've taken this journey together. Is there anything else that you want to share before we say goodbye?
Well, thank you, Laura, for this beautiful interview and this opportunity to let people know more about, my journey and my process. And I think what's really important, and it's on the landing page for the summit, and you maybe have seen it, is just, and also true, is you are not broken.
Mm.
And sexual trauma can be healed. And you can enjoy the body, living in the body you're in.
Ah, wise words to share. Thank you.
Mhm.
And what a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, my sister Laura.
Mm.
See you all real soon.